Are you ready to explore the exciting tech world like never before? Welcome to Better You, the podcast where we dissect the latest in business, technology, and startup trends, all with a keen focus on growth. So buckle up and get ready to stay ahead of the curve. Let's make you a better you.
This episode is brought to you by Propel Auth, the easiest way to make authentication your advantage. For B2B SaaS companies, great authentication is non-negotiable, but with Propel Auth, it's more than just functional, it's powerful. With tools like managed UIs, enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, Propel Auth adapts as your product grows. And the best part, when Auth is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Check them out at www.propelauth.com. That's www.propelauth.com. Welcome, folks. Today, I have a very special guest on my show. His name is Ulf, and he is a founder of a very cool company called Protegrity. Those who do not know Protegrity, they are one of the key players in the data protection. I will let Ulf introduce his company, but before I give stage to Ulf, I want to set the context for this conversation. What we are going to cover in this discussion, the overall evolution of data privacy. You know, we have GDPR, CCPA, many other trends. And as we move from the data privacy, then we will talk about cybersecurity threats in 2024. You know, generative AI is one of the hottest topic right now, and it brings compliance and security concerns at various levels. And as we move forward from the cybersecurity threats, we'll go into the details of building a privacy-first organization. What are the practical steps a leader needs to take to make sure that there's no security compromise? And as part of the closing of this episode, we'll discuss the future of data security. So, Ulf, I'm so excited to have you here. Please feel free to introduce yourself and let's have this conversation.
Thank you very much. I used to work for IBM 20 years, and IBM did not really, how would I say, IBM did not really want to go into data security. So I started my own company, Protegrity, and Protegrity came, I would say, a leader in data privacy and data security. I then moved on for a couple of years to Tokenization because I wanted to go into, I would say, more cloud-based security. And then Protegrity asked me to come back. So they had a new management, and I agreed to come back. And Protegrity wanted a little bit more of data security in the cloud. So I asked to be heading that as the CTO. And then Protegrity did not want to, I would say, go into more privacy, data security privacy. So I left, and now I started my own company. And I have a lot of good contacts, good friends in data privacy, and I am making a lot of contacts. Very good people. I have a couple of webinars. I typically add 2 webinars every month, and I would like to continue with that.
Yeah, this is great. You actually just mentioned something very important, that you left Protegrity because Protegrity did not want to get into data privacy space. And that raises a question, the difference between data protection and data privacy. And this is the first segment of our episode, evolution of data privacy. I would like to, as you're a thought leader in this, subject matter expert, I would like to understand from you, what does it mean they did not want to get into data privacy, and how do you see the difference between data protection and data privacy?
Thank you. I wrote a book
Nice, yeah.
about data privacy and data security, or actually 2 books. And I'm starting to write my 3rd book about this project and topic. And I think it's very important. If you look at the future, I think that data privacy and data security is going to be very big.
So, question is, what is the difference between data protection and data privacy?
In my view, data protection and security is a way of maybe you can say that it's the infrastructure.
Okay.
And in my view, I think of data privacy more like what you can do from a policy point of view.
Makes sense.
So I like to think about security is the enforcement. It's based on much of an infrastructure,
Okay.
and privacy is mainly based on policies.
Policies, yeah. I'm going to ask you a question. So I was part of a startup, Pravicera, and this is where actually I found out about Protegrity, because Pravicera at the time, I don't know what they're doing now. It's been 4 or 5 years. At the time, the way I competed against Protegrity was data protection, which is data encryption at the rest, at the attribute level in the cloud. And this is where my customer said that Protegrity does not provide data encryption, data protection in the cloud at the time, 4 or 5 years ago. I'm sure they have changed the roadmap now. They do provide that. During those days, I used to explain to my customers that data protection is an umbrella term. And as part of the data protection, you have data identification, data classification, and then you have a data access management, and then you have a data encryption at rest at attribute level. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that it's mainly about data protection, and if you protect the data, then you have a very good foundation. If you just protect the infrastructure, I don't think you have a very good protection. It's mainly a way to secure different types of networks and operational, and I think that it comes more and more down to data, protecting the data, and I think that criminals are going more and more after accessing data, and criminals are very successful these days to access data, PII data, and other types of information.
Yeah. You mentioned something. You mentioned that data policies, of course, GDPR, CCPA, and literally every state in the United States of America, they are bringing up their own state policies to secure the data, put together the regulations in place. During your time of, during this evolving space of data privacy, would you like to talk about on your take on the data security when it comes to these different data policies?
Yeah, I'm from Sweden, and we started our company in Europe based on data security policies, and then we moved the company to United States. And United States, I think, is a little bit behind, but United States is kind of catching up. We have, as you mentioned, I would say CCPA is a little bit different, but it's coming up as a way to focus on the business. And many states in the US are trying to copy GDPR. It's hard because the different states have different ways to enforce GDPR. And I think one day we may get a common federal protection act. It may take, maybe it will take a lot of time, but I think that would be a little bit similar to GDPR.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, it makes sense. And I like what you said. Instead of every state trying to govern the data privacy, it will be a good idea at the federal level. Somebody comes in and says, you know what, we will take it from there, and we're going to just implement the data privacy, data subject rights at the broader level rather than at the state level, because it's easier to manage. Actually, that, yep.
Yeah, so my advice to organizations is basically to look at where you're doing business. Look at the most stringent regulation and try to implement that as a baseline.
Makes sense. Yeah. So I think so that takes us to the second segment of our episode, where I want to talk about. I want to move away a little bit from data privacy. I want to talk about the cybersecurity threats. So, biggest cybersecurity challenges that organizations they are facing today. Of course, we are very familiar with DDoS, but from your experience, and As part of this, from your experience, generative AI, and this explosion of data, now so much applications and data is coming from so many sources into systems. What are your thoughts on cybersecurity threats as we move into 2025 and onwards?
You are mentioning DDoS, and I think, of course, having a denial of service is it's important threat. But if we talk about different ways to attack your data, like ransomware.
Yeah. What I'm talking about, so many applications are coming in, building so much ecosystem SaaS applications, cybersecurity threat in that context.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that different threats are evolving. So if you look at ransomware, it's becoming very difficult because ransomware is not just encrypting your data, locking it down for you, but it's also taking your data. It's stealing your data, and it becomes a very difficult situation because you are no longer just locking down the data, but you are actually stealing the data. That will become a very difficult situation for you.
As a security first, as the organization is moving more towards cloud, and how do you help the leaders to be security first organization as part of the cloud migrations?
I think smaller organizations are trying to move to cloud because it's cost effective for them. If you look at big banks, they are a little bit or very hesitant to move to cloud. So I'm seeing that large banks are not really moving to cloud with sensitive data.
Yeah, I do see the same pattern where some part of the banking system is moving towards cloud, but more restricted, more compliant data ecosystem is still staying in the on-prem ecosystem rather than going into cloud.
And on-prem can be very expensive, and it's a big investment, and I think cloud is becoming a very cost-effective way for the smaller companies.
So during your Protegrity work that you did, I think you were there almost 20 plus years. You've founded the company, those 20 years, and now we are here in 2024. We have gone through the wave of virtual machines and then containers, then big data, and now we are on generative, then cloud and generative AI and AI applications now. Could you share some of the stories as this evolving space that you witness in Protegrity itself, and how would you help leaders to learn from those stories so that they can build more secure solutions and be more proactive?
Yeah, 20 years ago, people did not, most people did not care about data security. And I think that our first company that started to think about security went to the Coca-Cola company. And the Coca-Cola company wanted to protect the formula. They had about 400 different formulas for different countries. So they wanted to protect the formula. And then we got into other companies like Visa, American Express, many banks. They started to realize that data protection was very important. And then after a couple of years, or many years, companies started to realize that protection of data is important. In the beginning, most companies didn't think that data protection was important, or it was too hard to implement. So after about 20 years, more and more companies started to think about data security as a cornerstone. And if we talk about what Forrester did, Jon Kindervagt came up with a very good approach. He said security is not really sufficient. So Jon Kindervagt at Forrester started with zero trust. So he said zero trust is based on a way to do dynamic security. It's not enough to just do static security and authenticate when you come in to the network. So Jon Kindervagt and I talked a lot about that approach for, I would say, about 10 years ago. And I think it's a foundation for data security, implementing a data protection that is very dynamic, looking at you are accessing different type of systems, different data, and that I think is a very good approach.
Yeah. When I talk to customers about the security piece, they always ask about dynamic and static component. Dynamic, when your applications, websites, SaaS applications, they want to make sure as the users are coming in, based on the user's role and profile, there should be a way to do encryption and decryption of the data. And of course, the data stays encrypted at rest. So maybe we should unpack a little bit more your version of static and dynamic. How would you describe it?
I think about the static way is that you have an access control and authentication when you come in. But the issue is that you don't know where the user is going. So what Jon Kindervagt come up with was the dynamic approach, meaning that every request to data should be evaluated.
Okay. I'm coming in, I'm trying to read the data. and there's access control, either attribute-based or role-based, implemented, whether I get access to the data or not. If I get access to the data, then the next level of protection comes into the picture, whether I have access to decrypt the data or not. Is that correct? That's your version of dynamic?
Yeah. And I think about ABAC, attribute-based access control. It is a very powerful way to implement, I would say, what you should pay attention to. So ABAC is a very good to enforce data protection.
So what's your take on the role-based access control? Do you think role-based access control is not a right way to do the access control?
It's what we used to do way back. So it is a static way, and now I think we need to do more dynamic approach. ABAC, meaning that you actually look at where is the user coming from? What is the user actually accessing? And I view it as very different from role-based access control.
Yeah. I was reading a research a long time ago during my days when I was working for an encryption company. The research came the way that research was done, that attribute-based access control, ABAC, has some performance impact on the way the access control is being implemented and being accessed. What is your take on that?
It can take more computing resources, definitely. But if you want to, I would say if you want to make sure that your sensitive data is better protected, you should apply or attributes-based access control.
Data classification, data identification itself is a challenge. And once you identify, tag the data, then on top of those tags, you are putting access control. And then on top of those tags, you're defining whether a user has access to decrypt the data or not. So that's a flow that you think that is the right way to do it.
Yeah. And then you have tokenization, for example, as a way to limit, I would say, limit what the user can do with different data. Tokenization can limit, I would say, how the data can be used. What part of the data is actually exposed. So I think tokenization is kind of a middle ground.
Yeah. Tokenization is a middle ground. I agree on that. And there is some research came out that tokenization can also cause or may cause some performance impacts if there's a large volume of data. Would you agree with that statement?
No.
Okay. Because there's always a lookup table involved, and as you are reading data, encrypting, decrypting the data based on the lookup table, you think that there is no performance impact at all.
My view is that if you can use what I actually implemented and invented many years ago, more than 10 years ago, you can actually replace the data with tokens. So in that case, you can actually use, I would like it to be like casino tokens, casino chips. So you actually trade information like casino chips. And it can be different for different systems and use cases. And there will be no performance impact.
Casino chips, you take the casino chip, you go to the counter, you cash it, and then there's no performance impact.
Yeah, when you cash out your casino tokens, that will be the time where you actually need to transfer. For example, when you check out and you want to do some payments,
Yeah,
you go to the bank and you need to revert the tokens, and then you have a performance impact.
I see. I see your point. Okay. The next topic I want to talk to you about is blockchain.
Yeah, blockchain is interesting.
Blockchain is very close to my heart as a technology. I'm not talking about crypto. I'm not talking about any scam where you can, start creating based on ICOs. You can start creating more tokens and start gambling with people money. I want to more focus on, building the consortium chain where you can implement some real use cases between different organizations to exchange the information in a very secure way. Would you be willing to talk about the blockchain?
Yeah. So you said secure way. As you know, blockchain is based on PKI. And I'm worried about what's happening with quantum computing. And some predictions from Gartner and other organizations are predicting that blockchain, or basically the foundation, the PKI Foundation, RSA encryption, and ECC encryption, will be broken in a couple of years.
Because of quantum computing?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying the public key infrastructure or the public key concept itself will be broken because we will go into this very, very, very fast computing way of doing things,
Yeah.
and eventually it's going to be all hacked or broken.
Yeah. And it's not only the speed, it's also new ways to break public key
Interesting.
encryption.
So you feel, or is it valid to say that you feel that blockchain may not be the right technology in future to exchange the information in a very secure way?
I think it's a big very big threat. If you, I would say, but if you encrypt the data on the blockchain with AES 256 or longer keys, then you at least can protect the data. But I think it's a very big challenge for protecting blockchain. And if you think about the chain, blockchain, it can be broken in a couple of years.
Interesting. Okay. So actually that raises this point, which I'm on when you create the consortium chain, on the chain itself, you don't know this public key, this public key belongs to whom. So, for example, if I am sending you some information, let's say I'm sharing some information without disclosing my name, and I'm just giving you the public key, and you and we are transacting or doing work through the public key on the consortium chain, that sensitivity of people can be maintained in a very secure way. Would you agree to that?
Yes, but I think the key point with the blockchain is that if you put data, if you transact data and you protect it in a secure way, at least the data can be secured, like AES 256 or longer key. It's I think the problem is that can you actually keep the integrity of the blockchain when quantum computing is evolving? That's my big concern.
I am 200% with you. I'm also a huge fan of quantum computing, not because it's a buzzword. I own a domain called quantumcomputing.ai, and the point is, we all know that once we get out of this Gen AI, and GPU buzzword slash true implementation, the next thing is quantum computing. Now the challenge is what is the overlap of quantum computing with blockchain? We don't know, and also I don't think that we are going to store data on blockchain. It will be more about metadata on blockchain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you need to store the data somewhere.
Yes, you're right. That will be on the cloud storage somewhere. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we are good. I will let's do one thing. I'm gonna stop, and it's very nice meeting you. I'm glad we were able to connect. And we should continue this conversation in our next episode.
Yes, I like that.
Okay.
And maybe we can. I have a webinar coming up in November. Starting the first webinar is hosting my webinar and the panel session in. We are usually doing it every year. So it's maybe you know what the society is doing. They are hosting a lot of webinars, and it would be great if you can participate in the panel.
I would love to participate in that panel.
Thank you, Nirav.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Yes, see you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Better You. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into today's topic and found some valuable insights to help you on your growth journey. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to leave us a review and share Better You with your friends. Together, let's continue exploring the exciting world of tech and business. Until next time, stay curious, stay innovative, and keep growing.